Hello my fellow flight simmers, welcome back to another Microsoft Flight Simulator video. I am sort of following from behind, but I just wanted to start a couple videos to take a look at the newly released Aerosoft CRJ 550/700. In this video, we will be looking to cold and dark start procedure, or how to power the aircraft from a cold and dark state, enter the flight plan, calculate the performance, and start the engines to get our taxi ready, or maybe we will push back and do a taxi ready state. And in the second video we will look at the takeoff, climb, cruise, descent, approach and arrival. We will also take a look at the EFB and the options available in the EFB to see what kind of changes we can make to this beautiful aircraft. So without further ado, let's hop into the cockpit and take a look at things, shall we? Alright, we are in the cockpit. As you see, she is in a cold and dark state, and we have the originating checks. We will follow this for a little bit and then follow our own flow that I started to develop after starting to fly this with this aircraft. Crew oxygen mask is over here. You basically check by pressing to the buttons and it will make a sound and the oxygen will flow. That's what audio warning panel is on the co-pilot side, all the way here, and that's this panel. It has to be guarded and no lights. Electrical power panel, we checked that, and in real life it's this panel. In real life you check the breakers, circuit breakers, to make sure everything is in place. And let's apply power first and we will discuss more. So the battery master goes to on, nav lights goes to on to let the ground crew know that we have power to the aircraft and someone is inside, and then we'll arm the emergency lights. Okay, fire detection and electrical panels and fire detection system. Fire detection system is this. When you press this, there is a message displayed, fire system OK, on the EFB. I hope you saw it. It's hard to catch. I can pop the window, but it's not going to be visible due to the limitations of the recording software I'm using, but I think we can do it like this and you'll see the fire system OK message here. So that's the fire system test. External lights, we checked, nav lights are on. Fuel panel, there is a fuel panel at the back of the aircraft. You can refuel the aircraft from this panel. You power it on and then it will show the current fuel, and you just add or remove fuel from this switch, and when you turn it on it will start loading the fuel. So that's the fuel control panel. We'll leave it alone for now. Let's go back to the checklist. Bleed air panel, nothing is there. Is that panel over here. This needs to be at normal, this needs to be closed, and this needs to be at auto, and this needs to be both engines. That's normal. APU panel, it's over here. APU is currently off. We'll turn it on for electrical power. Start panel is engine start panel. It needs to be dark and no lights. Hydraulic panel, it's this one. When you have electrical power, that's only pump 3A is an electrical pump, so you can turn it on to have some hydraulic power to check things outside. ELT is this guy, emergency locator transmitter. This is for accidents. When you are in a crash, you turn this on and then it will send a signal for aircraft's position. Cabin pressurization panel is up top next to the engine or fuel pumps rather. This knob adjusts the landing elevation and the rest you don't touch. Air conditioning panel is right below the cabin pressure panel. It's this guy here. The packs are currently off. This is the recirculation valve. You turn it on to recirculate the air inside. And the rest, this is hot or cold. This is the temperature knobs to adjust the cabin temperature, so on and so forth. And there is a switch in the middle, which is the aft cargo air conditioning, which is turned off currently, and RAM air, hot, cold, so on and so forth. Okay. Anti-ice panel is again overhead. It's this panel, anti-ice. Only thing you do here is you turn the window heats to low. It's in the checklist. You'll see in a second. And what you can do is there is an ice detection test. You'll see a message, ice message here when I press the test button. Oh, it requires probably power to the aircraft or APU running. We'll just check that. Windshield heats to low. That's the switches we just changed and moved to low. Emergency lights, we armed them already. Standby compass is this guy. It's looking okay. Nose wheel steering is right here. It's off. Clocks are set. What you can do here is there is a mode. So that's the international or UTC time. And this is the local time if you want to use local time. Instrument panels, we checked them, nothing crazy. Upper pedestal, that's over here. There are some tests that you can run when you power the aircraft. We'll look into those. Thrust lever quadrant is at shut-off position right now. Engines are not running. Avionics are checked. Yaw damper will engage it when we have power. And you need to have the IRS aligned to engage the yaw damper. And then the source select panel, that's the nav source panel, I believe. Source select panel is somewhere here, and we don't really need to do anything in there. So before start, we'll just leave it here. We'll turn on the APU. Starting the APU is pretty easy in this aircraft. You press this button, APU will do an in-bite test. It's a built-in test equipment, and then it will open the valve. And actually, it's animated. The valve, the APU valve, is right there, shut-off valve, and it's the APU door. I'm sorry, and it is animated. It just opens when you press that button. And then from there, you go and hit the APU start. You'll see start, and then over here, APU start will be displayed, and you'll see the RPM and EGT rising. And if you go outside, you'll hear APU spooling, and it will become available when this hits 60%. Start kit goes away, and then when it's at 99, the APU will become available, and the other screens will turn on after that. So that's the basic powering up from a cold and dark state. There we go. So now we have the systems online. The first thing I do usually is to turn the IRSs to nav position so that it can start aligning. And under the options page, you have a couple options: realistic, quick, or instant, based on your preference. That's what you do. You can change the temperature units or the weigh units. Barometer units you can change from here. There is also a switch down below that switches between hectopascals and inches mercury. And I am using synchronized so that whenever I set the pilot side, the standby altimeter as well as the co-pilot side is synced. This is the flight director mode. You either use a crosshair style or a V-bar style flight director. This is the flight number location on flight plan page. Either line select key 3 left or line select key 5 right. I'm using 5 right. You can change it to the other side, and that's That's over here. It's now line select key 5 is this, line select key 3 is this, so you can move this from there to here if you change the other, select the other option. On the next page, cabin announcements, flight attendant, flight deck noises. Even if you turn it on and save, it is not saving this state. I'm guessing this is a bug. Automatically set the transition altitude and level. This is going to set the transition altitude based on our location, and the level, transition level. Those are two different things, based on our location. I haven't messed with these two. This one, coupled VNAV, will make the aircraft operate with a VNAV available VNAV. Right now, the aircraft only has advisory VNAV, where it calculates the top of descent and shows you how many feet per minute you have to descend. But if you turn this on, let me show you here. Check there is nothing there. If I turn this on and go back and look, now there is a VNAV button added to this panel, where you can now select VNAV, and then the aircraft will climb and descend for you based on the calculated VNAV path. I used it once for descent, I never used it for climb, and I think you shouldn't use it for climb. You use speed mode for climb and then VNAV for descent, but I'm turning it off because I don't know if the real aircraft in the real world does have VNAV. I just like to keep it this way so that the aircraft is close to the real aircraft. This is the MFD map options, what symbols are or what information is displayed. I turned on the high altitude nav aids, which are VOR stations, nearby airports, speed, altitude, selected altitude range. So that's what is displayed here. So that's the selected altitude range. When I change it, it is displayed there. And then the throttle calibration was something I fiddled with for a long time due to not being able to adjust it. But what you do is you hit calibrate throttle, and then I have a dual axis throttle quadrant. You can use a single axis too. And then you just basically go full power. You'll see the values here. And then set max power, move one level down, set that one. And then move it down to climb. I have detent, so that's what I'm using. Use it for that, and this is actually not matching right now, but I'll leave it right there. And then you move it to idle, and that's idle. I just pulled it back a little bit and set these values because it was giving some problems. So that's how you calibrate the throttle. Okay, so APU is running. Let's jump to the FMC side and see what we can do to program our flight. I'll just put some integral lightings and some floodlights just to brighten the cockpit a little bit. And the pedestal panel light controls are here, integral lighting, and then the floodlight. We can also do that, and the co-pilot needs to adjust his own panel using these switches. Display is adjusting the brightnesses of the displays, as you see here. For those co-pilot or first officer displays, this one over here is for pilot, and there's another one down below that changes the brightnesses of the ECAM screens or displays. Alright, down to the FMC. Let's go to the index, position initialization. So IRS is not aligned yet, but we still get the GPS position on the second page. What I do is I copy this, come here and set the position. And then the airport, we are at Madrid, Spain. So that's Lima Echo Mike Delta. I don't remember the gate number. You can put it and then it will display your position based on the gate number. I can check Sim Toolkit Pro though. It will give me the gate number based on the real airport in real life. So if I zoom in, I thought it would, but it's not giving. We are at a ramp, maybe that's why. So I'm not worried about that at all. We will leave that part alone because it's not necessary to put the gate number, but this is how you initialize your position. On the second page you have some FMS and GNSS positions, so that's FMS, that's GNSS, all three are the same. And then on the third page you have IRS1 and IRS2. They are not aligned yet. We have, I think, 4 minutes left, so this is where you see how much time you got left for the GPS to align. Alright, back to flight plan. Our origin is Lima Echo Mike Delta. Our destination will be Valencia, Lima Echo Victor Charlie. And let me go to the flight and see the alternate. The alternate is Barcelona, so Lima Echo Bravo Lima. That's our alternate airport. Our runway for departure today is 14 right, so we will plug that in there. Runway 14 right. And our flight number for today's flight is, we are using Iberia Air Nostrum livery. And our flight number is Yankee Whiskey 1120. That is there. We execute this information. Before doing anything further in the flight plan, my recommendation is to go to the departures and arrivals page and select your SID. That will make your life easier. You don't need to, then if you do this, you don't have to clean too many discontinuities for departure. So our departure for today, or our standard instrument departure, is Nando 1 Bravo. So we'll go down, Nando 1 Bravo, that's that one here. And we will execute this. And if I go back to the flight plan, now you see it's telling that it's via Nando 1 Bravo to Nando. That's our last waypoint of our SID. This makes it easier if you start doing it like this. From Nando we are taking the airway Uniform Mike 871. Airways go to the left side, waypoints go to the right side, and we are taking this airway to Mabux Mike Alpha Bravo Uniform X-ray. And then from there our arrival starts. So that's fairly short flight plan. We execute this and we go to the departure arrival page. We can select the departure now. If it changes or the ATC changes it, we will just change it on the go. We will do an ILS 212 Yankee approach to runway 12 via the Mabux 2 Delta transition, or star, not transition, Mabux 2 Delta. And the vectors is the ATC will guide us, or we have to go and find that first waypoint of the approach ourselves. But let me see if we have a transition on our flight plan. And usually if you create your flight plan from SimBrief, your transition is in the last 3 waypoints under your flight plan. I do not see a transition. There is only one available, that's CLS, and that doesn't look like a transition to me. That's on our flight plan, so we will keep the vectors and execute this. And when you have vectors, you'll have discontinuity on your flight plan. Let me show it to you real quick. If I go to let me see here. If I go to this which one was it to? I think it was this. Yep, so this is the plan mode. We'll decrease the range. Okay, so, and then we can cycle through this either by pressing these arrows, I believe. No? Was it on the other page? Can we cycle through this? If we go to the MFD Advanced, can we use this? There was a menu option that I found that lets you cycle through the flight plan. It was this, and I saw But no matter, it's not gonna matter. If these are not working, you can use this to cycle through the waypoints. And if you look at here, looks like we might have a discontinuity there, or it is just the altitude restriction in the way. We'll go to next, 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 looking okay, my books, and then there is your discontinuity. Let's increase the range. Yep, there looks like there is a discontinuity. You can see it in the flight plan page there. It doesn't know how to go from Mabux to Mabu 2 Delta. And on the legs page, if we scroll down, we will see a discontinuity right here. So how we can clear this? You can either select and delete. That's one way of doing it. Or the other way of doing it is you can copy this to the scratch pad, go to the first and paste it over the other Mabux because it's duplicated, and then execute. Then that should clean the discontinuity. There is another one right there, CF12 and vectors. So you need to do this. You need to copy CF12 and you need to paste it over the vectors to get rid of that discontinuity. And then all looks good from there. So if we zoom in again and start cycling, okay, so you have to be at the legs page, I guess, to cycle by using the arrows. As you see now, we have a complete flight plan without any discontinuities, so that looks good. So that's how you plan your flight. When this is done, obviously you need to initialize the performance of the aircraft. There's a bunch of information that you need to fill in here. Cruise altitude is one of them. We can already fill that in because I have that through SimBrief. Our flight cruise level is flight level 300, F300. You can use F, FL or 30,000. All three works. And for the performance, the rest of the performance, I'll take us to the performance page in the EFB. And what I do here is I am going to use the zero fuel weight that's coming from SimBrief. I will paste the plan when editing the video here so that you see it at the top. But our zero fuel weight is 26,732. I'll change to zero fuel weight because I have no way of knowing. For forward and aft cargo, SimBrief doesn't give you that, so I just find this easier to deal with when it's a SimBrief flight plan. So that's 26732. You have to make sure you click enter before leaving this box. And the fuel for today's flight, according to SimBrief, is 3,321. So that's 3321, enter. And if I press set payload in simulator, you'll see aircraft move a little bit, as you see. And then for some reason, it's not carried over, as you see, zero fuel weight. Oh, zero fuel weight is here. If I press it again, now the CG is adjusted. Nothing is changing, but I think you have to press it twice. Maybe this is a bug, I don't know. And if I go to the weights and balances page, now we have a correct weights and balances, 2391. So that's also setting the CG on the second press in the simulator. And then we can now copy the performance initialization data to the FMS rather than fiddling with this information and trying to guess how many passengers we need to match that way. I press this. Now, if I go down to the FMS, that tells us we need 70 passengers, 2,438 kilos of cargo, and then that is going to match our zero fuel weight and takeoff weight. We execute this, and that is done. We go to the VNAV setup. Transition altitude, as you said, because of that option I selected, it's automatically set. Next page, cruise level is set, target speeds are given here, 300 knots or Mach 0.74, climb speed is 290, above 10,000 or Mach 74, below 10,000 it's 250, so that's that. And that's pretty much it. On the next page of performance initialization, you can put some of these information. I'm not sure if this is making any difference in terms of the flight characteristics of the plane, but SimBrief has some information. Average ISA deviation is -4, so I'll plug that in there. And usually climb and descent winds, I go to the ADIS or weather information. We'll look at the METAR information and enter that information as the climb wind. Not sure if that's the accurate way of doing this. SimBrief has an entire page full of wind information. I just find it too cumbersome to enter it just to take off and enjoy a flight from point A to point B. So I use that. That information says winds are coming from 090 and it's at 4 knots. I'll plug this in here, and you can also use, there's an average wind calculation in SimBrief that is telling me that that average wind is 046 at 54 knots. That's probably going to be the cruise wind. Or for cruise, the other alternative I do is I go to the operational flight plan, find the top of climb there, and then enter that wind information, which is also 046 at 78 knots. So that average wind information SimBrief is giving us is close. So 046, and I'm using the average for this flight by 4. And for the descent, I use the top of descent wind information. And that is telling me that it is 046, same direction, different magnitude, which is 078. That is the wind information. We'll execute that. On the third page, you have an estimated time of departure based on the local time, 8:16. Let's say we are planning to depart at 8:45, you plug it in here, and then this will give you an estimated time of arrival and the estimated fuel. You can change the taxi fuel. I was trying to do some calculations. You'll probably be okay with 100 kilograms of taxi fuel, so I'll leave it alone until I figure out how to accurately calculate that. But that is the performance page. And yeah, that's pretty much it. On the MFD menu, I turn the VNav option on so that, let me cycle back to flight plan, so that this information is displayed here. That gives me the next waypoint, destination, and the restriction I have, that is the third line. So we have a 2400 restriction at bra 02. That's at 2 miles away. And it's showing that we are currently at climb phase. I like to keep it like this. So that's done through here. You can also change the high nav aids, low nav aids that we looked at in the EFP from here as well. This is again alternate flight plan, and you can change the side and do the same thing over at the co-pilot screen, and maybe just put the waypoint information there so that you have two different options on two screens, because these screens are independent, which is great. So that's that. What else we have? We have MFD data that you can put here. If you want, you can go to MFD menu, or I'm sorry, MFD data, and you can either check the flight plan, you can check the navigation status, estimated time of estimated time en route, estimated time arrival, blah blah blah. All that information is here. You can get a position summary from your GPS system. You can get a position report, which I don't see anything. You can see the VOR status if you have a VOR station tuned. You can see your secondary flight plan. And LRN status, that's the IRSs and GPS units, and that's it. So you can have that information there as well. The fixes page, I like to do this, so I usually draw our destination as Lima Echo Victor Charlie, and I draw a 30-mile radius ring. That is when I want to be at 10,000, so that in that 30 miles I can make it to the airport safely. That's a visual reminder to me. And then I do a second one, Lima Echo Victor Charlie, and I'll do a 10-mile range ring that will tell me that I need to start slowing down, deploying flaps, landing gear, and all kind of that stuff. So that's my 10-mile final for the approach. And then the third one I use is I take my cruising altitude, which is 30,000 feet for this flight, multiply it by 3, that gives me 90,000, and I'll just get rid of the thousands and use 90. Lima Echo Victor Charlie, and use that 90 as the last ring. This is probably going to align with my top of descent, so that's my top of descent reminder. So that's what I use the fixed pages for. Messages, there are nothing here. Index takes you to the index. There are a lot of information and menus here that you can take a look in your own time. VNav is the VNav page that we just went through. And performance page is the performance page. You can go and check the fuel management. You can change your reserve fuel. We have 748 kilos of reserve. You can change it. You'll see your ground speed. You'll see your fuel flow here when the engines are running. This is predicted. You can switch to measure, then it will measure it from the aircraft. Engine flow, this is showing the engine fuel flow. And then this is the estimated fuel required based on your fuel flow. I believe this information is updated when the engines are running. I never check this when the engines are running, so that's that. Direct intercourse, this is your pretty much advisory VNav that is telling us that we need to climb at 4600 feet per minute. So that's advisory VNav that gives you information on how fast you have to descend or climb. Hold, this is just to enter to a hold for a waypoint or over a waypoint. Legs, I tried it once. You can also adjust the leg winds here if you want to, or you can see the leg data, climb, blah blah blah. You can check this too. This has a lot of pages. Pretty much you can put a secondary flight plan. You can copy it from the original if you want to. Menu page is MCDU menu. This is FMS1 active. And radio page is going to let you tune the radios, and this has a secret page on the second page because it doesn't tell you how many pages is this. Maybe that's a bug, but on the second page you have a flight ID that you can put here, which ours was Yankee Whiskey 1120. There we go. So this is displayed to the air traffic controller as your flight number through your transponder. You can leave the nav radios at auto, then it will auto tune to the closest radio navigation source like a VOR, etc. COM radios, I never mess with them because I don't use ATC. And ADFs, I use them for departure if there's an ADF that I can track to make sure I am on the right path for my departure. And this is your transponder code or squawk code that you can throw anything in there that's given by the ATC. That tree is not valid. It has to start with something and not bigger than, oops. I usually use 1071. plug it in there. So that's your transponder code, which you can also set from here as well. By pressing here, it will allow you to set this like so. And this also has the radio information as well. Pressing one more time will change it to off, on, altitude reporting. It's currently at standby, so on and so forth. And this is the switch that is going to make it active from standby. So yeah, another neat feature, you have DME hold that lets you to track two different nav sources. We will discuss that in more detail in a separate video. So from this point, let's go to the checklist and see what we got to do to start the engines. Electrical panel, all the panel pages are working. That's your electrical panel. Pressing one more time will show you the DC. The first one was the AC, and as you see here, we have APU powering the DC bus. If I go again, that's APU generator supplying all the essential buses, bus 1, bus 2, essential bus service bus, so on and so forth. And it's also supplying power to the TRUs, transfer rectifying units 1, 2, and the essential TRU 1 and 2. So the electrical page looks okay. We have power to the aircraft. Takeoff data, we did that. And the other thing we can do from here is you can set the speeds, the V speeds. By pressing set all, it will carry it here. Also the speed bug as well. Or if you want to adjust it from here and fiddle with the knob, you can change it from here. And by selecting, we will switch between different speeds. That's how it's done. I find it easier to do it from here rather than trying to deal with it with the knob. Okay, that's done. Takeoff data set, doors, aircraft doors are open. We can close it. The ground power card is currently removed, so we can remove the chocks. If the chocks are removed, you can't connect the ground power card. You have to have the chocks in place to be able to connect the ground power unit. So we can remove the chocks and close the door. You'll see a cabin announcement or cabin crew coming and telling everybody is boarded.
The cabin is secure, all passengers are aboard.
There we go. And fuel pumps and quantity. So let's go to the overhead panel. Fuel pumps are here. We turn them on. We checked the quantity already. We'll turn the packs on because we have APU supplying bleed air. We'll turn the probes or probe heat to on. We'll turn the passenger signs on. Right? And then we are about to start the engine, so we turn the beacon on to tell the ground crew that we are about to start the engines. From this point, we will look at the messages on the eCam pages or displays to see what else we forgot to do. That's on the stats page. If I go here, I see yaw damper. We forgot to engage the yaw damper, which is this guy here, so we engage that. I go again, it says stab trim, so the trim is not, and the Mach trim is not also engaged, so that is stab trim. When I press, it will do a self-test. Spoiler stab in test, it takes 10 seconds and then it will disappear. And the Mach trim is this yellow switch, so that will clear that up. This is normal until you start the engines. Seat belts, no smoking, APU is on, recirculation fan is off, we can turn it on. That's this guy here. And if I get closer, right engine, left engine, isolation valve, engine bleeds, that will change when we start the engines. So now we can call the tug and then it will drive up and we'll turn the flight director on. We'll set the altitude. We have a restriction, but I will set it to our cruise altitude for demonstration or training. You can fiddle with this in your own time and maybe select a different altitude to climb first. Or maybe you are using ATC or VATSIM. But I will set it to 30,000 feet, so that's also set. Okay, what else? Hydraulic pumps. Fuel pumps are on. Hydraulic pumps, we only have currently pump 3 running, so we'll turn all the pumps to auto. The tug is connected. We'll disconnect the parking brake now, or disengage the parking brake rather. That's done. And then we will start our pushback. Let me check to see where we need to face. I think at this location we are departing from runway 14 right, so that is which one? Let's see here. 14 left, 14 right, so that's this runway, so pushing the tail to the right is what we want. So we'll start the pushback and then we'll go overhead. Beacon is on, and then we'll start with the right engine. As you heard, the bleed air is stopped, the AC is off now. Oops, I shouldn't have done this. Ugh. Anyway, be careful with your mouse wheel in this aircraft. It tends to change and move things around. So N2 is at 20%. We'll just flip this switch and move the throttle to idle. And that should introduce fuel, and then the ITT should start rise, as well as the RPM. And we are going to push the tail to the right at this point. Alright, so right engine is now starting, as you hear. There are other tests that you can do. I am not going to worry about those. Let me check the maintenance page to see if there is anything wrong here. Yeah, nothing here. Okay. And then you will hear some safety briefing from the crew. Okay, I think this is good enough for the pushback. We'll stop the tug here. And then we'll set the parking brake. I will keep the tug there until the second engine is started. First engine is now stable. So therefore we will go to the overhead panel and then start the left engine. So now the left engine will start to spool, like so. We are waiting for 20%. 15, almost there. 18, 19, and 20. We'll open the latch and move it to idle. So that's both throttles at idle now. Throttle is kind of too sensitive in this aircraft, even if I calibrated multiple times, so I'm not sure. So now that is done, engine 2 is starting, we can dismiss the tug. Oh, it disappeared magically. How nice. And then now the left engine start will go away. There we go. And then that leaves us with normal messages. Everything looks okay. There are no red or yellow messages here. Both engines are online. Engine generators are running. We can turn off the APU and close the APU shut-off valve and cut the power to the APU. So that's engine start. After start, generators are at auto. Those are here. They are already at auto as default state. Electrics, we checked it. We can still check again through the electrical page. Both engine generators are online and DC bus is powered, so that's good. Bleed valves are auto, packs are on. APU is off, anti-ice is off, we don't need it. We can now arm the nose wheel steering for taxi, and this is what you need to do. And before taxi, we set the flaps. We are departing with flaps 8 today, so flaps are set. We'll make sure the spoilers are retracted. Trim. So trim is under the performance tab. You see it's 6.5 and the stab trim is displayed here. Rudder trim and elevator trim is normal. They are green. We'll change the stab trim to 6.5 for our takeoff. That's that. And trim is also set. Thrust reversers, we will arm them. They are here. These switches do arm the thrust reversers. Flight instruments, we check them. Brake temperatures are displayed here, and they in fact change when the brakes are hot. They are now green and normal. And yeah, that's the flow until you get this aircraft taxi ready. So I think this is all I have for this episode. It is kinda a longer one as the first episode for CRJ 700. In the next episode we will taxi, take off, climb, cruise, descent, approach and arrive to the destination. So this is going to be a 2-episode videos tutorial series. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. That helps tremendously for the channel. And stay safe. I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.